KPBS Evening Edition is made possible by Joan and Erwin Jacobs and by
San Diego gas prices are rising at an unprecedented pace for this time of year. The average price topped $4.30 a gallon today, and analysts say it's heading for record territory. KPBS business and environment reporter Eric Anderson joins us to talk about the situation. So, Eric, why are prices taking off?
Well, Dwayne, it's really an unusual confluence of events that's accelerating this jump in gas prices. There's a contamination issue with the Northern California gas pipeline that feeds the Bay Area. There's a problem at a refinery in Torrance. Another major refinery in Northern California has been running at reduced capacity since August because of a fire. But perhaps most significantly, the supply of summer low-polluting gas blend is starting to run out. California pollution rules keep Southern California stations from selling the winter blended fuels until Halloween. And earlier today, I talked to Tom Closa of the Oil Price Information Service, and he says that condition is pushing prices up fast.
You're going to see the highest prices of your lifetime within the next 10 days or so. And I don't base that on any sort of wild-eyed predictions. Wholesale prices have gone ballistic here in the last week, and there's some real fears about whether there's enough supply on the West Coast.
The record high price for gas in San Diego, by the way, is $4.64 a gallon.
Yeah, if you haven't already filled up, any sense of where prices are going next?
Well, the Utility Consumers Action Network says the current price is about $4.35 a gallon, and they expect the retail price to jump by as much as 40 cents a gallon by Monday. Now, in Los Angeles, some stations are already selling gas for more than $5 a gallon. Others say that they're actually going to shut their pumps off until the cost of fuel comes down. Now, analysts say that this price surge is going to be painful, but they say it's a short-term problem. And there will likely be a call to lift pollution rules that allow that winter blend to be sold before the end of the month. We'll see where that goes. Now, once that winter blend is available on the market, analysts say prices should come down.
KPBS business and environment reporter Eric Anderson. The operator of the San Onofre nuclear plant in San Diego's North County has released its long-awaited plan on what to do next at the troubled plant. It's been shut down since January after a small radiation leak was discovered. KPBS reporter Allison St. John says the company held a news conference for media and investors this morning.
Edison is asking for approval to restart Unit 2 at 70% power. The plan would be to shut it down again 5 months later to check on the steam generator tubes that have been causing problems. And the chief nuclear officer, Peter Dietrich, says that the Unit 3 will remain closed down indefinitely. So the key question is, what is the difference between Unit 2 and Unit 3? Dietrich says that Unit 3 and Unit 2 both had their steam generators replaced at the same time based on the same new redesign, but there was differences in the manufacturing and installation of those steam generators that resulted in Unit 3 being more unsafe. So immediately after their news conference, Friends of the Earth held a telephone news conference and said, Arnie Gunderson of Fairwinds Associates said it's a distraction to be looking at a distinction, making a distinction between the two units. In fact, Gunderson said, they are both equally unsafe and they've both shown more problems than any other steam generator in the nation. Meanwhile, the NRC, the new head of the NRC, Alison McFarland, says it will take months to process Edison's application, and they're holding a public hearing in Dana Point next Tuesday.
Allison St. John reporting. An anti-tax group is suing to stop a fire fee charged to Californians who live in rural areas. The state began collecting the $150 a year fee in August. The suit claims it's an illegal tax. It seeks an end to the fees and refunds for those who've already paid. Homeland Security officials are speaking out against a Senate report critical of an anti-terrorism center in San Diego. The report questioned the purchase of expensive equipment for the Law Enforcement Coordination Center. Those purchases totaled about $300,000. Homeland Security says the Senate report is outdated and misleading. A high-ranking member of the Sinaloa drug cartel is being charged with building this tunnel and others between the U.S. and Mexico. Authorities say the tunnels are used to smuggle drugs across the border. 49-year-old Jose Sanchez Villalobos faces 13 federal counts. He's in a Mexican jail right now, waiting extradition proceedings. Last week, a KPBS iNewsSource investigation raised questions about the relationship between one of the San Diego mayoral candidates and a wealthy developer and newspaper owner. A further investigation reveals City Council member Carl DeMaio did not disclose all meetings he had with Doug Manchester. Investigations producer Joanne Farian has this update.
Tonight, more on our story about the intersection between politics and powerful influence. We focus on meetings between Councilmember DeMaio and Manchester and UT CEO John Lynch. Meetings DeMaio did not acknowledge until yesterday. The investigations desk obtained copies of DeMaio's private calendar that shows he met with both men on more than one occasion. Amitha Sharma has more.
Mayoral candidate Carl DeMaio has had a financial and political relationship with Doug Manchester, wealthy developer and UT San Diego owner, and John Lynch, newspaper CEO, for nearly a decade. Last week, a KPBS iNewsSource investigation documented that relationship and raised questions about whether the partnership could influence decisions made at City Hall. Manchester and Lynch have both pushed for redeveloping the city's only cargo terminal downtown. They want to build a new football stadium and sports complex. DeMaio says he doesn't support that plan, a position he says proves he won't be swayed by Manchester and Lynch. He says other than one meeting with the UT editorial board in recent months, he has had no communications with Manchester or Lynch.
My office has released all emails, and it shows that we've had no conversations over email.
But DeMaio's personal calendar tells a different story. The investigations desk obtained pages from the calendar. They show DeMaio met with Manchester on at least 2 occasions.
KPBS had asked for meetings with Lynch and Manchester, and you did not turn over. You did not mention the meeting back in December, nor the meeting in May of this year.
And if you consult with the City Attorney's Office, the City Attorney's Office will tell you those are not covered under the Public Records Act request.
Why?
They are not city business. They relate to campaign activities. It would be virtually illegal for us, in the context of a PRA, to provide that information.
And Amitha Sharma joins me now. Amitha, what is the significance of those meetings?
Well, UT San Diego owner Doug Manchester is a powerful developer. He started a TV channel. He just bought the North County Times. John Lynch, his CEO at the paper. The two men have long eyed the 10th Avenue Marine Terminal as the next place to be developed along the waterfront. They have used the paper to endorse Carl DeMaio on the front page. They've used the front page of the paper to endorse a plan to develop that waterfront. Now, Councilman Carl DeMaio, who's running for mayor, has long championed the need for government transparency. Last week, our investigations desk revealed that John Lynch had sent an email saying that he believes he has the support of a mayoral candidate for his vision on the waterfront. So if these men are meeting, we ought to know.
I want to remind people that we did ask Carl DeMaio whether that is him that John Lynch is referring to in the email, and he denies it. And in fact, he went to great lengths in Monday's debate to distance himself from what Lynch was saying. I want to talk a little bit about this calendar, too. What obligation does an elected official, DeMaio's a council member, have to turn over a calendar?
Well, very little obligation. The law is super hazy on this topic. I believe Prop 59 allows the press more access to these calendars, so public officials are now turning over these calendars voluntarily, but there is no obligation to do so. And I just want to interject that KPBS has asked Congressman Filner for his day book. He told us last night that he plans to release it.
We should mention, too, he's a congressman, so he is not covered under the Freedom of Information Act. So if he does turn something over, it has to be voluntarily. Now, finally, is there a difference between an elected official's private calendar and his public calendar?
Well, theoretically, a private calendar should contain private business like doctor's appointments. and
campaign information. Campaign
information. But I think someone could make the argument that if that the public should know when a public official is taking time off to campaign, and a public calendar contains public business. In this case, at least in a couple of instances, we found that Carl DeMaio's private calendar contained public business.
And you did speak with someone in the city attorney's office. I just want to let people at home know the statement that you received. Let's show the people at home now. This comes from Jonathan Heller. He's the city attorney communications director. And he says private calendars are normally not subject to Public Records Act requests because they are not public records. There's so much more to this story, and I want to urge people to go to kpbs.org/port. Amitha Sharma, thank you.
Thank you.
California's three strikes law passed in 1994, but attempts to modify it have failed, partly because advocating against a tough-on-crime approach has been political suicide. But KPBS reporter Allison St. John says Proposition 36 on the November ballot would tweak the three strikes law at a time when California is being forced to cut the prison population and its budget.
Ursula Thomas was in her early 20s when this picture was taken. That was 18 years ago, before she went to prison for life under California's three strikes law. Her mother, her 18-year-old daughter, and her granddaughter have not seen her since. Thomas was sentenced in San Diego. Her third strike was stealing clothes worth $150 from Mervyn's. Her prior strikes were armed burglary, though her mother says she was only armed with a screwdriver. The public defender's office has tried unsuccessfully to have her sentence reduced. Frank Corser is with a group called Families to Amend California's Three Strikes Law.
And this is probably the most egregious cases where you find 690 people doing 25 years to life for simple drug possession, 385 for shoplifting, 181 for receiving stolen property. And that's the part that I don't think the voters ever had any intention of targeting those people.
Gary Gibson with California Western School of Law says Proposition 36 is designed to make the punishment better fit the crime.
The initiative takes away the ability for someone to be incarcerated for 25 to life for a, quote, third strike if their new crime is not serious or not violent.
About a quarter of California's prison inmates are now second or third strikers. This is important because California is under a federal court order to reduce the prison population from more than 160,000 to no more than 112,000 prisoners. By transferring less violent criminals to county jails, the prison population is now down to less than 120,000, but that's not low enough. California's ailing budget is another consideration.
With the cost of incarceration being in excess of $50,000 a year now, if you're going to incarcerate somebody for 25 years to life, and that's it, you have to be there at least 25 years. You're looking at, what's that, a $1.5 million, $1.25 million for minimum for somebody for one of these sentences.
California's legislative analyst says Prop 36 would save the state between $70 to $90 million a year for the next 2 decades. New fiscal and legal realities are challenging the old political philosophy that anyone who's not tough on crime risks their political career. Los Angeles Police Chief Charlie Beck and LA DA Steve Cooley support Prop 36.
Many law enforcement agencies in San Diego have taken a position against Proposition 36, but they've declined to come out and speak about it publicly.
And in fact, here in San Diego, Bonnie DeMonis has actually personally taken me to the side and said, Frank, I believe this law needs to be tweaked. But it's politically not very comfortable for them to come out and say that publicly. And that, I think, really needs to change.
San Diego District Attorney Bonnie DeManis would not comment for this story on Prop 36, but her boss, County Supervisor Ron Roberts, is against it.
There are people who belong in prison to the extent that they're getting out before they should be. We don't need another victim. Okay? I don't want to have to visit families or deal with people who are on the streets when they shouldn't be, that you or I or our families or anybody in this community then becomes a victim. That's not the answer.
Mike Reynolds, a Fresno man whose daughter was murdered 20 years ago, is the author of the three strikes law. He is fighting to preserve it and says it should be credited with the drop in crime in California in recent years. But Frank Kurser disputes that.
Throughout across the nation, there's 25 states that have a three strikes, 25 that do not. Those 25 states that don't have a three strikes enjoyed the same drop in crime as California did, but without spending a dime.
Rapists, child molesters, 26,000 dangerous criminals will be released from prison.
Prop 36 is not the first time voters have been asked to modify three strikes. Prop 66 was defeated in 2004, but Gary Gibson says this proposition is better crafted. Prop 36 would not automatically release those with a nonviolent third strike. They would have to be resentenced, and anyone with a prior conviction of murder, rape, or child molest would not be eligible.
The people in law enforcement have a very valid perspective, which is this law has done a lot of good, and without a doubt it has. And I think the people on the opposition side, or the side of proponents of Prop 36, are saying, yeah, you've done a lot of good, but you've also done some bad. So let's fix the bad and keep the good.
KPBS reporter Allison St. John. So far, very little money has been raised to defeat Proposition 36. Opponents have raised $100,000, while supporters have raised nearly $2 million.
Joining me to talk about the current law and how it could change if Proposition 36 is passed is Stuart Henry, Director of SDSU's School of Public Affairs. Thank you, Stuart, for being here. So first, tell us, how did the three strikes law come about in the first place?
Right. Well, there's a concern over habitual offenders generally, and there were, in particular, we were at the peak in California of the highest crime rate we'd ever experienced. And what happened was there were two particular cases, Kimber Reynolds and the case of Polly Klaas, both resulting in homicides of children, in one case Polly Klaas and a teen in the other. And that was so emotionally charged in the context of the crime rate. People wanted to do something about it, and they wanted to stop the ability of people who'd committed previous serious offenses recommitting a serious offense again. So it's designed to protect the public. That was the intent.
That was back in the 90s, right?
Back in 94 was when that came through. In 93, there'd been a similar law that was passed in Washington State. Correct.
So what's been the result in terms of the prison population because of three strikes?
Well, it's certainly increased for a variety of reasons. We're on a getting tough on crime model of criminal justice ever since the 90s. The problem with the law is that it has been so net widening and all-inclusive that people who were on their third strike committing petty offenses, which were could be a store, shoplifting, golf clubs, or videotapes, were getting sentenced to 25 to life.
We've got some numbers on that, actually. Let's show the people at home. So property crimes. Now, these are people in California prison, third strikers serving life in prison. More than 2,500. Third strike was a property crime. Drug crimes, more than 1,300, and other nonviolent 842, so the numbers speak for themselves. Now, what does Proposition 36 aim to change in this law?
What it's aiming to do is to bring back proportionality to sentencing, so that if your third strike is a serious or violent offense, then you will be still subject to 25 years to life.
Okay, so we've got some bullet points. Let's just put those up as you sort of go through them and let us know exactly what this proposition does. So beginning with only serious or violent felonies.
Right. So it has to be in that class. If it isn't, then you don't get the 25 years to life. The other element of this that is important is that it allows for resentencing of offenders that have already been sentenced to 25 years for life when their third offense was a non-violent, non-serious felony.
And also, though, this new this proposition does allow, though, if a firearm is used in your third strike, then you could go to prison for life. Or if you've got a prior murder, rape, or child molestation charge.
Exactly.
Okay, so it casts a wide net, but not as wide as it currently does.
And that's the exact point about this. It's trying to rein in some of the broad, sweeping capturing of people that and the cost of putting people in prison for those kind of offenses. One of the problems with this whole approach to criminal justice is it's like if you've got a problem in your house, like a burst pipe or you've got a broken chair, you know, and call a maintenance guy comes in with a toolbox. Unfortunately, the toolbox for criminal justice consists of a hammer. That's all we use, the same process. What we really need is to do analysis of what the problem is, what the cause of the crime is in each particular case, and apply the appropriate sentence. And a three strikes law, unfortunately, doesn't do that. It's the hammer of criminal justice.
But there are people at home who are going to say, look, there are people who do nothing but they're lifetime criminals over and over and over. And if you are the victim of that crime, whether it's your house is robbed or whatever it is, you probably are sick and tired of this. I mean, there is an argument to be made.
There is the sick and tired, and there's life sentence. I mean, do you want to give someone a life sentence if their offense, though that you've been victimized, is not that serious? If it's a theft from a store, if it's a theft of golf clubs, why are you giving and paying for $50,000 a year to keep somebody in a prison?
So we haven't got a lot of time left. Do you think that maybe this might come down to money? When people in California know that we're spending so much of our budget on keeping people in prison for life, do you think at the end of the day they might just vote based on their pocketbook?
I hope they vote based on a range of issues, not least of which is the justice issue, because what's wrong with this law as it stands is its disproportionate sentencing for the offense. The punishment doesn't fit the crime, whereas the money is an additional issue. This is going to result in 2,800, according to the latest figures, people being reconsidered for resentencing, which is not going to make a great deal of difference on the 136,000 prisoners in the system.
We'll have to leave it there. Much more on our website, kpbs.org. Stuart Henry, thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you.
California wildlife officials are looking at whether gray wolves need endangered species protection. These are Alaskan and Mexican gray wolves at the California Wolf Center near Julian. Scientists are currently tracking a wild wolf who crossed into California from Oregon. Gray wolves are a federally protected species. The study is intended to see whether state protections are also needed. San Diego's first large-scale memorial honoring America's most famous civil rights leader is now on display. It's on an embankment stretching between Home and Euclid Avenues along Highway 94, also known as the Martin Luther King Jr. Freeway. The wrapping off a piece of San Diego public art is finally coming down, 7 years after the project went up along this busy stretch of Highway 94 heading eastbound.
Oh my God.
Philip Matzakite is the main artist commissioned by the city in 2005 to complete the project.
I drove across the bridge and I caught a glimpse of it.
Now he and portrait artist Neil Shigley are getting a close-up look at San Diego's first large-scale memorial to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It's about 20 feet high at its peak and 225 feet long.
Is it what you thought it would be?
Yes, and seeing it in place, there's no way you can compare what you see on a computer screen or even print it out on a piece of paper this big to the impact that it has where it is right now.
The images stenciled into the concrete are so lifelike, you can almost imagine Dr. King saying,
"Sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream."
This man has changed so many lives.
Neil Shigley created the 3 images seen on the mural.
He's changed the lives for people in this country, around the world, changed how people think about themselves, about other people.
Shigley lives in the neighborhood and says his objective was to capture the likeness of the civil rights leader.
If even one person looks at this and gets some kind of sense of his spirit, wow, victory, big time.
This mural is a symbol of Dr. King's oratory power, the ability to use words to move people, and the birds represent hope and freedom, says artist Matzakite.
Anybody who's ever listened to any of his speeches, but especially the I Have a Dream speech, can't help but be moved and recognize that this man was just an extraordinary being.
One day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
Today, the scaffolding came down from around that mural. On Saturday, October 20th, an official public ceremony will also be held. Recapping tonight's top story is California's gas prices have soared, an 8-cent increase overnight. San Diego's average for a gallon of regular is now $4.30. Analysts say we can expect even higher prices. Refinery and pipeline outages are partly to blame. The state is also running low on its supply of summer blend gasoline. Prices are expected to fall when winter blend arrives later this month. Federal regulators have received a plan for restarting the San Onofre nuclear power plant in the North County. It's been shut down since January because of a radioactive leak. Southern California Edison, the operator, plans to restart one reactor at 70% power for a 5-month trial run. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission must still approve the plan. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. You have a great night.